So we're back today, and we will talk about what it takes to start a company, why start a company, why many people fail in initial stages, and we'll try to dig deeper into this, and hopefully you guys will find it useful. So today, my partner, my friend Rodrigo,
Yes.
we're going to talk about starting a company, why people start companies, what they want to achieve, and we'll try to get as many questions answered.
Exactly. So we're gonna start from the beginning, of course. So the beginning. So before the business.
Yes.
So opening. So before we talk about business, who was Alex before any of this? So where did you came from? What
Yes.
were you trying to prove?
Yes. So where did I come from? I'm an immigrant, right? I came here from Ukraine by the way of Israel, and I came here in the year of 2000, exactly for the new millennium, and I was just learning English the first year. I went to university. I went to kind of community college. I went to university, so my English sucked. I didn't know anybody here. I couldn't work. So it was like really 2-3 years, kind of like rough years, finding myself.
I feel you're talking, and I feel I'm in the same,
in the same shoes, man. In the same shoes. So Rodrigo came here 4 years ago, right?
4 years ago.
4 years
Yes,
ago.
4 years ago.
The story repeats itself. I think being an immigrant, you can't escape it. It is. It's unpredictable. It's tough, mentally tough, financially tough.
Yeah.
It's a big decision. So I came here as an immigrant.
Yeah.
I went to university, but I really didn't know what I was gonna do. I was kind of lost. I tried corporate jobs. I hated them. I worked in a bank for about a year and a half. It really, mentally almost killed me. I just hated the routine, the politics. You come in the office at 8 o'clock or 8:30. You leave at 5, 6, 7. How long? You do a lot of stupid work, monotonous work that just redo. And it's all important about your boss liking you. Your boss's boss liking you, and just a lot of kissing ass.
Kissing ass.
Kissing
yes.
ass. That's what
a
it
new
is.
word that I learned.
And I hated it. Okay.
Yeah.
So and actually
because it was not you, right? You were doing
it
something
was
that
not
was
me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was kind of lost. I was frustrated. I was anxious, and I already was married at that time. I was in my late 20s. I was 28, 29, and I was just like, how I'm going to support my family.
You already have kids, right?
No, I didn't have kids.
Not
didn't
kids,
have kids.
yeah.
Just married. Thinking about how I'm going to support my wife, how I'm going to pay rent, and all that stuff.
So I think that's a good hook, because when you think back to where you started,
Yeah.
what was the one thing you were most afraid of?
Wow, that's a good one. I think I was very afraid of repeating my parents' life. And my parents' life, they were very educated, highly educated, but they were not good with their finances. They could not pay bills on time. Didn't understand what happens when you don't pay your credit card balance.
So they don't have
loan,
control about nothing.
no
about
control.
finance. Okay.
So as I was growing up, my life was a tumult, like a constant, parents arguing about money, no money, no money, money. So I grew up with this feeling that the lack of money, that's kind of the default. So I'm not sure if other people can relate to that, but I think a lot of other people grow with this kind of, they learn from their parents, basically be anxious about money. Oh, money's not going to be enough. Money's going to run out. And I think it really, that's kind of the feeling that I was raised with.
So maybe you could explain why you try to do some jobs that even is not good for you. You try to do a job because maybe you think it's safe for you, right?
100%. My parents, I think like many other parents, raised the following thing: is go to school, get good grades, go to university, get even better grades there, then get the best job you can, and just climb the corporate ladder. That was the plan, and that's what did happen to them. They tried. Sometimes they were laid off, this and that, but that's the model they followed. And I think it worked very well for baby boomers, like my parents born in the 50s. But for our generation, I don't think it works. It works anymore, and for sure not for our kids' generation. For somebody in their 20s.
Yeah, but you think you have something similar in US than where you came from?
For sure, I think it's interconnected.
Right?
It's interconnected. Maybe some nuances, But look, I have family in Germany. I have family in Israel. I have family in Russia. I have family in Brazil. And I see it's the same patterns there. The old recipe doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so you think you most afraid was about?
I was repeating my parents' life, always
Yes.
leaking with fighting about money, living with lack, being stressed out.
And how many kids were you and your brother, right?
Me and my brother, my twin brother, and there was just the two of us, and we always we relied on each other, and that's how he grew up. Nick also entered, my brother Nick entered corporate America, and he was pretty successful because he can put up with a lot more bullshit. I don't have I don't have the patience for this, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for this, and he was just a lot more patient, a lot more kind of just calm and kind of following the rules and everything,
Very good. So, continue that. So, growing up, what did success mean to you? So, and exactly when did that definition start to change? So, I think you have a phase about that, right?
Correct. So, I think what I didn't know anybody who was an entrepreneur because I grew up actually. It's an interesting detail of my biography. I was born in a country that no longer exists. I was born in Soviet Union. And in Soviet Union, it was a communist country, and maybe it's hard for people to relate, but basically everything was owned by the government. Everything. All the factories, all the universities, all the companies, whatever they were, everything was owned by the government. And basically I never met anybody growing up who was an entrepreneur. I never been a business owner because that didn't exist. So I lived in there until I was 9 years old. And then I moved to Israel. My parents followed when the country collapsed. My mom is Jewish, so we left to Israel. There, I saw some people kind of selling things in the shops, but I was looked at them really uneducated. Did I want to be this? No, I wanted to be a computer programmer or some financial guy or a professor. That was my dream. That's what I wanted to become.
Do you have a lot of memories about this period? Because I heard a lot of histories about the supermarket, how it works. Not a lot of things.
In Soviet Union?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, back then, so back then we had very few options. But again, it was already starting to change. So in the late 80s, the Soviet Union was falling apart, and people started bringing stuff from overseas, from other communist countries in Europe, so Poland, Hungary, maybe some from Germany. So we started having a little bit of products, but not too much. You would go there, it'd be 3 types of bread, 2 types of milk, 3 types of cheese, maybe 4 types. Depends. Maybe it was St. Petersburg where I grew up, so we had enough food. We never went starving, so that's at least in the big cities. It's a misconception. Nobody was starving there, as far as I'm aware. But the choice was limited. It's not like in America you come there 50 different types of cereal, right? So, but other than that, it was a good childhood. It was safe. It was good. To me, I grew up very well. I didn't see people who were drug addicts. I was not abused. Physically, it was a lot of fighting in school, but other than that, it was a good childhood.
Okay, so at the end, what exactly the success means to you, and when did that definition start to change?
That's a very, very good question, actually. So, I think every person has life-changing moments, and if you look back, you never recognize it at the moment. It just happens, you forget about it, but then you look back 10, 20, 30 years, you look back, you're like, holy shit, that actually defined me. That's why I do what I do. So to me, this moment came at when I was 9 years old. It was I was still in the Soviet Union, and I was a voracious reader. I loved reading.
Very young.
I loved reading. Voracious reader. I read maybe a book a week. So I would skip school, pretend to be sick. I would stay home reading. So I would finish maybe 50, 60, 70 books a year.
Wow.
And the librarian liked me because I used to go to the library in my local in the neighborhood, local library, and she loved me. And she saw I was above my age. I was reading already mythology, history, science, philosophy. When I was 9 years old, she was like, that's pretty cool for a kid. So she always used to suggest books to me.
Okay.
So I came to her. I gave my book back that I read. It was Adventures or something. And I said to her, listen, I want to learn something about how real people live, about the real world and everything, how money works, how people pay their bills, how business works. I didn't know the word business, but I said how the economy works. She goes Alex, I have a wonderful book for you. It's called Titan by Theodore Dreiser. It's an American writer who published 3 books, and it was basically it's about the railroad boom in the 1860s and 1870s in America. What happened here, right? It was the railroads built, and how one business person, rose to the top from very humble beginnings through a lot of struggles, a lot of issues. He was in politics, he was in business, And she gave the book to me. She goes, Alex, I wanted to learn how terrible capitalism is and how terrible America is. Read this book. You're gonna learn about it. It's gonna really clear your mind. Because
and guess what?
It was a propaganda. But
You become in love.
You know, 2 weeks I finished the book, and I was reading about his struggles. To me it was breathtaking. I was 9 years old, and I gave the book back to her, and she goes, I said, do you have anything more on this? She goes, you hate those Americans, the capitalists, right? They destroy people's lives, right? They destroy the working people. And I said to her, I thought I was 9 years old. I was afraid to tell her that I disagree with her because, who knows, Soviet Union. I said, terrible Americans, terrible capitalists. But I was thinking in my mind, I love it. I love it, man. I love it, exactly.
You discovered a new word, right? It's a new word for you.
Yeah, I discovered the word capitalism.
Yeah.
Capitalism, and to me, basically, what capitalism means, it kind of meant, freedom, to some financial freedom.
Yeah.
But also it meant building something that's beautiful and people can enjoy it. It's something of value, so people pay you money, and like railroads or trams or anything like this. He was building metro at a certain point. People enjoy it and benefit from this, and you make a lot of money.
Yes.
As a result of that.
So do you think at the end, do you think success means make a lot of money, construct something?
I don't think that's the main thing. I think the main thing is help improve people's lives.
Amazing.
That's the bottom line. That's now again, like think about an iPhone, right? Think about internet. Think about Tesla or those products, right? Improved our lives. They were kind of the best. People bought them, and as a result, the people who invented them, right? They made those companies. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, right? They became extremely wealthy, but only as a result of bringing value to others.
Very
And I think that's the way life works. There's nothing free in life. You have to create value to get value.
Very good. So let's talk about the first move. Take me to the exact moment when you decide to build something. So what was going in your life? What pushed you off the fence?
Yeah. So the year was 2008. It was the end of 2008. Maybe September, maybe October of fall of 2008, let's put it this way. So where was I? I was freshly laid off from JP Morgan, from where I worked, from my banking job. And I got accepted into University of Chicago. I took a test and I got in. University of Chicago is a very kind of prestigious university for business. And I was doing my MBA, Master's in Business Administration. So I was just started, okay? And again, most people would go get their degree, get their master's and MBA, and would go to work for Goldman Sachs, for JP Morgan, Wall Street, maybe consulting companies, McKinsey, maybe Google, maybe
Mac, right?
Yeah, doors open up, And that's what people talked about. Oh, I'm getting hired by Google, I'm getting hired by McKinsey, I'm getting by Goldman. But to me, it's like I couldn't even listen to this because I knew it's going back to corporate America. Back to politics, back to ass kissing, back to wasting time in stupid meetings. I couldn't take it anymore, So I was like, I'm not doing that. So the question was, okay, your family, your wife. We didn't have a kid yet, but we're really thinking about the kid at that time, having a kid. And I was like, how am I going to support myself? So I don't know. I was kind of like walking around thinking about it, but I didn't have a plan. It's not like I sat down and I put some plan together. It didn't work like that, for me at least. I started going a lot to the nature. I started going to the beach. I started going to the forest. And I just kind of talking to myself, and I said universe, listen, I know it's universe, bring to me something that's going to be good for me. I don't know the...
One thing that that you don't want to go to the
corporate. Yes, one thing I knew this, but I don't want to think negative. I think positive. Like bring me something that's going to be positive and beneficial for me, And then a financial crisis happened. It was not beneficial for anybody. But what it is, during the crisis, I recognized opportunity. I saw basically real estate being devalued by 30, 40, 50%. Mm-hmm. Banks taking over those loans and those properties. And they were stuck with them. So I called my friends in the bank and I said, guys, what's happening with those properties? He goes, Alex, if you know somebody who wants to buy them, please call us. We need to sell those properties, because if we have a lot of properties in our books, the federal government is going to close us. The Federal Reserve. Ooh. They have the power to close banks. At least back then they had it, but also if they see the bank is failing. So I said, listen, let me think about it. So I went and I looked at my savings, my brother's savings. I called some friends, called our uncle, And we came up with, with a little bit of money. And I went to the bank and I said, how much is it going to take to buy this? They said, like, well, it's going to take a couple $100,000 to buy, let's say, 4 units, 5 units. And that's how it started. So we agreed on a deal. Those units needs to be fixed. So my brother took care of construction and he learned the construction. And we just one by one, the key is like really not to overthink it. It's just the flow. Sometimes you enter the flow and just flow with this. I think a lot of people fail. They start overthinking, over planning. Now, business is important to plan. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I think don't overplan, don't overthink, because I think many people get stuck by kind of paralysis by analysis. They get paralyzed. They don't move forward.
Do you think they use excuse like I'm gonna wait for the right moment, right?
Yeah, they use it always for the right moment. I have a lot of friends who are still waiting for the right moment. 20 years later, they're waiting for the right moment.
So that's a good point, because most people have the idea, but very very few get to the first million.
Yes.
So what did you do differently in those first years that you don't see most of people doing?
Yes, that's a very good question. So what I've done, the way I've got to the first million, it was in 2000. So I started in 2008. By 2010, I already was worth over $1 million. This happened pretty quickly. How it happened? It happened that we kind of entered in the flow. There was a crisis happening, and we got caught by. Now some people got crushed by the big wave. We actually were the little fish surfing this wave. We didn't know that, but we went to the banks. The bank said, anything you want is for sale. Any of those little condos, houses, please take it off. And all we had to do is go find money. And we're going to talk about maybe fundraising at another time. But, I called friends, I called family, I called friends of friends, family of family, uncles, aunts, friends of friends, in-laws, all that stuff. And we assembled, a little bit of money, like a little less than $1 million, and we started buying broken units. When I say broken, unfinished,
got it.
And abandoned by in the middle of construction. We would finish them off, would rent them out, and then go to the bank to refinance. Right. So it's buy, repair, refinance, and then do it again and repeat. Right. Brr, right. BRRR. It's a strategy. I think it became pretty popular, but we didn't know about this. We didn't know about this, so we just kept doing it. And the thing is, just like once you get in the flow, don't think about it, do it, because there'll be time in your life where you're going to be stopped. Things are going to be slow, and the kind of as the universe is conspiring against you to slow you down. But sometimes you just enter the flow and it gets crazy. You catch crazy wave, and it's the key. Your job is to surf that wave, not to be afraid of anything. Just like go for it. Okay.
So let me do one question that I didn't wrote first. So do you really think that if you have a good idea and you really believe the deep of your heart that it's gonna works, if you look around with a good attention, you're gonna see that the money is outside. If you can sell the idea, maybe you can raise this money and you can put it to work, right?
Correct.
Because I think most of the people think, I don't have money, I can do nothing.
Right.
And actually it's not right, because you did exactly the opposite. You had nothing. You talk to your brother, you talk to your uncle.
So correct. So the biggest misconception is that it's the hardest thing is to get money. Oh, it's so hard to get money. It's hard to find investors. No, if idea is great, if you have a good idea, a good business plan, it's easy to find money. There's trillions of dollars out there, millions and billions, and not exaggerating, looking for good ideas.
I think this answer now is gold.
This is looking for good ideas. This is true. I know this. Come up with a good idea. Now if you can't raise money, first of all, it takes a lot of effort, and it's basically what I use the word here, the slogan for raising money: never give up, never give up, never give up.
I already heard that in the mat.
Right? Never give up, right? Never give up. We cannot give up. You're gonna talk to 20 people, 30 people, 100 people, 200 people, and that's what, and then you'll succeed. And that's another kind of entrepreneurship. A main trait of an entrepreneur is, first of all, is being a visionary, having an idea. 2 is being optimistic, and 3 is never giving up. Never giving up. Never. Beside any obstacles, you believe in it will always overcome the obstacles. Okay.
Very good. So let's talk about a little bit reality. So what was the hardest moment in the phase when you genuinely thought it might not work, and what did you do? Because it happened, right?
Yes,
during this journey, you start to ask yourself, right?
Yes. Right. So
be very honest. Open your heart, because
100%.
maybe people try to listen you, And okay, everything's running for this guy.
No.
Everything run well, and
No.
we know that's not true.
No, it was not true. It was not true. I will give you two cases, and I'll tell you how they worked out. And I'm going to be 100% honest, because my goal is to teach people to learn from my mistakes and my successes.
Yes.
And trust me, I made a lot of mistakes. I still make them. So I'll tell you two cases. Number one is when we're buying our first self-storage, right? We decided to start buying self-storage because I liked the business. I worked for a guy in college, and we found a little self-storage not too far from us near Chicago. And I went to the owner. We agreed on the price, and now I asked the broker, what do I do next? Because I really didn't know what to do. He says, well, you should go talk to the bank and get a loan, because unless you want to pay for cash, for $1 million in cash. So I started calling banks, and I didn't know anybody in banks, so I would type in, I think, Google, or maybe I looked in the yellow pages, and I saw like 30 banks in that area. I started calling them, and they would tell me, like, first of all, probably about 20% were disconnected, went out of business, no longer in business. Please, call. The number is wrong. Boom. The ones that answered the phones said, like, no way. Do you have a relationship with us? No. Do you know anything about self-storage? No. Do you know anything about real estate? I'm like, well, we own few units. Well, not interested. Hang up. So I was calling 30 people, 30 banks, and I got 100% no. 100% no. Okay. Then I went to the town. So here was my realization. I said bankers are conservative people. Okay, they're very conservative, and usually they will try to do business with somebody or business or person that they know. So I went to that little city near Chicago, and I drove around and I looked for banks, and I took down names of the bank, and I would come in person. I put my suit on. And I would come in person, and I would knock on, enter the bank, say who's a commercial banker, and I met with them, sat down with them, and I would say probably another 80% told me to leave. Okay, thank you. The meeting is over. It'd be nice meeting you. But
drink some coffee and go, please.
Yeah, come back. Please. You can have free shitty coffee. It's in the bank from yesterday, And what happened was one of the bankers finally came out, and I said to him, like, I'm planning to buy this self-storage. It's located on the street. He goes, yeah, I know this storage. I store there. I've been a client there for 10 years. It's a good business. I'm like, yeah. So he says, like, well, I'm planning to buy it. He says, okay, come to my office. Let's talk about it. So he analyzed it. He sat down with me, asked me what I'm planning to do. I had a plan, and he said, okay, I think it can work out. So he gave us the loan, me and my brother, to buy that storage, And that was a persistence through like few months of saying no, and my mind was playing tricks with me and saying, like, no, that's not gonna happen. That's
that's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. Go back to being in business school. Go back to being corporate world. It's safe. It's where everybody's going. And my mind said, and I said to myself, there was like something inside of me said, absolutely not. I'm not doing this. I believe I can get it done. I'll just keep pushing forward, and eventually the door will open up.
So do you think one core value for entrepreneurs should be like trusting yourself?
Yes.
Because you gave a good lesson right now. You trust in yourself, right? You're not just a dreamer.
Right. So you have to trust yourself, but act based on numbers.
Yes.
Trust yourself, but act based on numbers.
Don't be a dreamer,
yeah. Be visionary, don't be a dreamer. Okay?
Good.
Right?
I like that.
Right? The vision is basically you have a concrete outcome, right? I want to buy this business. I want to make, take it from $1 million a year to $5 million a year. I'm going to improve marketing. So you have a plan, right? It's your vision. You have a plan. Dream doesn't have it's just a dream. Like we dream about all kinds of stuff. I dream about being a basketball player.
I like that, because when we start to create a business, we start doing this vision, and then we start mission.
Yes.
So vision is exactly like what you're trying to say, right?
Correct.
To see yourself like in 5 years, 10 years.
Correct.
Very good. It's not just a dream.
And I would say the basic look, 80%, 70% of everything, just do it. Just many people think about they struggle for months about how to name my business, how I'm gonna be, what I'm gonna market it. Just do it and let the market kind of dictate your strategy. Okay, that's very important.
Very good.
Okay, much more important just to start. We have an idea. First of all, you must love what you do. Then you have an idea. Then you sit down at the numbers, double check the numbers. If you don't know somebody good with numbers, find a friend. Maybe an accountant, maybe your dad, maybe your relative, maybe your uncle.
It's easy to find out, right?
Yeah, maybe even ask ChatGPT about upload your plan into ChatGPT. Let him kind of critique that, okay? So that's we live in a great world right now to help start businesses.
Very good.